Good afternoon from the Scott Learning Center. My name is Jay Mahaffey. I currently manage the Bader Scott Learning Center in Scott, Mississippi. We're out today getting all the preparations made to start planting our corn crop for 2020. Thought we'd take a few minutes today and talk about what some of those preparations are. I also want to take a few minutes today and introduce to you the new Learning Center agronomist here at Scott, Joseph Cummins. We're actually going to talk about a variety of subjects today. One of those being machinery preparation, some of the considerations you ought to take while getting machines ready to go to the field. Also, I'm going to come back in a few moments and talk about some of the things that we need to consider during the planting process for corn. We all need to remember there are 7 or 8 decisions that you make when you plant or before you plant corn that determine most of its yield potential through the crop. Those are things that we can only decide and only really change at or before planting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph. He's going to talk about the machines. I'll be back in a few moments. We're going to talk about some of the other things that we need to consider during the establishment of the crop.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, so I will go over the Pliner itself, the machine. So what do you want to look out for? Here at the Learning Center, we like to start with the Pliner's mechanics, with the double disc openers. Check those to see how worn down they are. The seed meters and plates, do you have any torn brushes or seals? Check all that before you start the closing system. Do you have it set correctly? After all those are checked and you're ready to go to the field, then you're sitting there, all right, how deep do you need to plant? Plant a little on the deeper side, plant on the shallow side. At the Learning Center, we've formulated some years of data that says being on the deeper end is you're better off than on the shallower end. So we like to set ours around 2 inches deep, which the takeaway from this would be when you get to the field, if you're swapping fields, hop out and check your Pliner, check your depth. Don't just assume that it's correct. That's what we like to do at the Learning Center. Next, we'd say planting speed. Speed's a factor in everything. So it's later in the year. We're getting antsy. We want to speed up. Well, it's not always the best thing because seed placement is key in corn. So know your Pliner, know the speed you need to go, stay consistent, and let's have a great year, guys. I'm going to turn it back over to Jay for the next portion of this.
Well, I think all of these factors interact through the season. When you think about all the things that we just discussed, and some of the other factors that are involved in making the crop, getting the crop off established to as good a start as possible, machines are certainly important. Another very important part of that is what products am I going to plant? And there are lots of qualifiers that we need to consider when we start talking about corn products we're going to plant in the field. Population being one of those. Each hybrid that we grow here on the Learning Center, each brand that we grow here on the Learning Center, we typically put in a population trial and evaluate its response to population. That response is not always positive. And those are questions that we need to ask as we buy, order, and use seed products in the field. The other thing to consider when you talk about population, there's really a trade-off to be made there. In most of the products that we've evaluated here on the Learning Center, and I won't talk about specific ones necessarily, you contact your DeKalb rep for those sorts of conversations or call me. But when you think about that, the question you have to ask is, if I plant more seed, do I make more yield? Are my yields improved? Typically, across most of the products that we test here on the site, the answer to that is yes. Now, certainly there is some danger in that as you push population higher and higher, you have to, number one, increase fertility typically if you're increasing yield. And also there's a trade-off in standability because not all products will stand up similarly under the same populations. And those are questions that you should ask of everyone that you have these conversations about seed. Also, a couple of the other questions that commonly come up through the season is what about doubles and skips? And this is interrelated to the machine factors that Joseph just talked about. When we adjust and set and spend all our money, or a lot of our money buying machinery, buying planters, and getting those planters ready to go to the field, the question often comes up, what am I trying to do? Well, what we're trying to do is drive uniformity every way we can drive uniformity, typically, and we're trying to plant as fast and efficiently as possible. Well, we talk about that. What does it mean? Well, there's always the question every year about doubles and skips. Which should I have? Well, ideally neither. But in some work that we've done here on the Learning Center over several years, we've actually gone out, harvested individual ears or samples of ears and evaluated the yield of scenarios where we either had a true double, we had a skip, or we had uniformly spaced plants. If we're missing a plant, in other words, have a skip, we're missing most of the yield that that plant would have contributed to the field. If we have a double, we actually, in our data, we actually generated just a little bit more yield. So the question becomes, when I set my planter, my vacuum, I purchased planting technology, am I out to fix both of those? The answer is yes. But if the choice is I have to set the planter where it doubles a little bit so that it doesn't skip, that typically provides the agronomic result we after in the field. Now with that, that's a quick few minutes of the things that we view as important here around the Learning Center. I would encourage everyone to call us, come visit this summer if you get a chance, and everybody have a safe and successful 2020 crop. Thank you.